Imagine yourself alone, in the middle of the vast and indifferent Atlantic Ocean. The water is a deep blue mirror reflecting an empty sky. The silence is broken only by the whisper of waves against the ship's hull. A ship sailing perfectly, with its sails partially raised, but there is no one at the helm, no one on the decks, no one anywhere. This is not a movie scene. This is the raw reality witnessed by the crew of the brigantine Dei Gratia on that day, December 4th, 1872. And the name of the ghost ship they found would forever echo as one of the greatest enigmas in maritime history, the Mary Celeste. Stay until the end, because the truth behind this mystery is stranger and darker than any legend. The Mary Celeste was not an old, rusty hull. It was a new, robust ship commanded by an experienced and respected captain, Benjamin Briggs, a man known for his seriousness and competence. He left New York on November 5th of that year, with a cargo of 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol, bound for the port of Genoa, Italy. On board were his wife, Sarah, his young daughter, Sophia, and a crew of 7 hand-picked men. By all accounts, it was a family trip, a routine commercial mission. Captain Briggs's logbook, found later in his desk, recorded nothing abnormal until November 24th. Just meticulous notes on winds and routes. And then silence. 10 days later, the Dei Gratia, under the command of Captain David Morehouse, spotted a ship adrift about 600 miles east of the Azores. Something was wrong. The vessel was zigzagging erratically, like a drunkard at sea. They recognized it as a Mary Celeste, but it did not respond to signals. After hours of observation and shouts that got no response, the Dei Gratia's first mate, Oliver DeVoe, and 2 sailors risked boarding it. What they found there froze the blood in their veins. The ship was abandoned, but not destroyed, not plundered. It was in almost perfect sailing condition. The cargo of alcohol was intact, except for 9 empty barrels. 6 months of provisions of food and water were still in the holds. The personal belongings of the Briggs family and the crew were all in their places. Folded clothes, valuables, little Sophia's toys. Even the table set in the captain's cabin, with the remains of an unfinished meal. It was as if the 10 people on board had simply evaporated into thin air in the middle of their daily tasks. But the details, those small details, were what made the nightmare tangible. The chronometer and compass were destroyed. The only lifeboat, a small boat, was missing. There was seawater accumulated in the hold, but not enough to sink a ship of that size. And, the most sinister of all, a sword was found under the captain's bed, and on its blade a dark, suspicious stain. Was it blood? It was never confirmed. And what did that stain mean? Can you, listening to this story, imagine what went through First Mate DeVoe's mind upon seeing all that? A ghost ship in broad daylight. Theories began to sprout like fungi on rotten wood. The first and most obvious, a mutiny. Perhaps the crew turned against Captain Briggs. Perhaps there was violence, explaining the stained sword. But if there was a mutiny, why was the ship in such good condition? Why were the valuables left behind? Why wouldn't the mutineers, after supposedly murdering the captain and his family, have simply kept the Mary Celeste, a valuable ship? The mutiny theory creates more questions than answers. Another tempting hypothesis involved pirates, but again the logic failed. 19th century pirates were not ghosts. They plundered, stole, destroyed. The valuable alcohol cargo was there. The personal objects intact. It made no sense. And then the panic theory emerges. Perhaps Captain Briggs and his crew mistakenly believed the ship was sinking. Perhaps the alcohol barrels emitted vapors, causing a bang that was mistaken for an imminent explosion. Fear is a treacherous counselor. In a collective panic attack, perhaps everyone rushed into the small lifeboat, tied by a rope to the Mary Celeste. And then what would happen? A sudden storm, a gust of wind, the rope snaps, and the fragile boat, with 10 souls on board, is left at the mercy of the ocean, doomed to wander until water, thirst, or cold put a final end to their journey. They watched helpless, as their ship, their home, their salvation, sailed away, intact and unreachable. It is an image of intimate and profound horror. The investigations in Gibraltar try to find a culprit. The Vice Admiralty Court even suspected Captain Morehouse of the Dei Gratia fraud, suggesting that he and Briggs had orchestrated the abandonment to split the insurance money. But there was no evidence. Morehouse and his crew were, in the end, acquitted and even rewarded for salvaging the ship. The Mary Celeste continued its career under other owners, always shrouded in an aura of bad luck and superstition, until being intentionally destroyed on a reef in Haiti in 1885 in an attempted insurance fraud that, ironically, worked. But its final fate is almost a footnote. The real story, the real mystery, died with Captain Briggs, his family, and his crew in the blue immensity of the Atlantic. The case of the Mary Celeste was never solved. It remains as a puzzle with missing pieces, a tale of suspense that time could not unravel. Based on reports and official archives, it is clear that some parts of the story may be contested. The stain on the sword, the exact amount of water, the sound that may or may not have been heard, are fragments of a nightmare lost at sea. And this leads us to the final question, the one that keeps echoing in the mind long after the story ends. What would make you abandon the apparent safety of your ship, leaving behind everything you have, to face the almost absolute certainty of death in a small boat on the open ocean? The answer for the Mary Celeste lies in fear, a fear so visceral, so overwhelming, that it made a catastrophic decision seem like the only way out. And perhaps that is the true horror of the story, the understanding that, under the right pressure, the line between salvation and perdition is as thin as a rope thread about to snap. So, what do you think happened on that ship? Is there a theory that makes more sense to you? Or do you believe the truth lies in a combination of tragic factors? Leave your opinion in the comments. The mystery of the Mary Celeste is one of those that belongs to all of us, and every new perspective is a piece trying to find its place. If this story held you, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next enigmas we will unravel together. Until the next navigation through unknown waters.